From Aotea Great Barrier Island, Aotearoa New Zealand, welcome to Small Island Big Ideas, an ongoing festival of conversations and events created to take Aotea Great Barrier Island and possibly the world forward. I'm Tim Higham.
And I'm Sandy Burgham, and together with our friend Bree Biederman, we are the Small Island Big Ideas team. It's 2024, and Small Island Big Ideas is going global. Thanks to input from many of those in our own community, we've scoured the globe to find other small islands, similar in size to our own, who've had a big idea that has led to some sort of radical reinvention.
We're interested in how other small islands are facing the future. How have they acted on a big idea that's transformed their island community in a positive way? We'll be sharing those conversations and learnings on this podcast over the next few months, one small island at a time. So let's get started.
Teshima is a small island on Japan's inland Setouchi Sea, about 20 kilometres east of the famous art island Naoshima Island. Teshima Island was once home to nearly 1 million tonnes of industrial waste that was dumped illegally on the island's western tip. The ever-expanding mountain of rubbish earned Teshima the nickname Garbage Island. But then around the year 2000, after 25 years of community campaigning, a multi-billion yen operation to remove the waste and restore the island began. The Teshima incident led to the transformation of waste administration in Japan itself.
Around 12 years ago, the Teshima Art Museum was created, an architectural masterpiece that kick-started a new era in tourism. Today, the island has been transformed as it welcomes tourists keen not only to explore the art museum, but the people and the natural surroundings of the island. And Teshima is responding in surprising ways to help visitors discover the real Teshima. We're lucky to have with us today Alan, who with his wife Rico runs a bed and breakfast, helping service the tourism industry there in a village, one of three villages on an island of 700 people, a place with many similarities to our own Aotea.
So, Alan, tell us how you personally came to be on Teshima Island yourself.
Okay, so born and bred in Australia, born in Brisbane, spent my teenage years and working years on the Gold Coast. Yeah. And I met my lovely wife on the Gold Coast. She moved to Australia when she was 16. So she was born in Teshima and spent the next 16 years in Australia. And funny enough, come and worked for me. I was in Japanese tourism based on the Gold Coast.
Okay.
I ran a big tour company. And she became an employee for myself, and that's how we met. And then we worked there for some time, and then I just virtually wanted the change of life. You hit that barrier in your life, and you're sick of driving to work and the stress of life and having a phone stuck to your ear 24 hours a day. And I've been here a number of times, obviously, to meet Reiko's relatives, and her parents still live here. And I just thought, well, that looks good to me. So we came here and we had the intention of thinking about coming. And then we found this property where we had our current B&Bs. And then we said, that's it. That's our plan. And away we came. So it was a big move because we just had a 1-year-old son as well. So it was huge move to move away from Australia.
When was that for you? When was your move?
Who was?
When? What year did you move to Teshima?
So we've been here 5 years. So it was pre-COVID. So it was probably 2019, I'd say 2019, 2018 sort of thing. So so we came here, made the commitment. When we first came, I was living with my in-laws in a very small Japanese house, as you're probably aware how they are. So it was a tough time until we got settled and found something that suited us. And then obviously we found the accommodation that we had currently, our B&Bs that we have, and then started the process of renovations and grant processes of finding government money to assist us.
Right.
And yeah, and now we're running 2 B&Bs. So
Well,
5 years on.
Alan, welcome to Small Island Big Ideas. Tim and I were first discussing this with Bree, who's our third, three amigos on this particular project. We all got to sort of talk about an island that we would like to do a story on. And mine was actually Teshima Island. I've been there because of that transformation. So we were really excited that we went one better, which is an even smaller island off the coast of Teshima that had undergone a sort of transformation. And,
absolutely.
And so that's what we're about. And so I think initially, I'm sure you'll agree, Tim, shall we just hear about the big transformation, and then we've got lots of questions about how all that went, etc. So tell us about what Teshima was and what was the big transformation.
Well, Teshima Second World War became, at the end of the war, became a place for a lot of people who lost their housing, obviously the bombings, etc., in the Second World War. So the population grew tremendously to 10,000, and now obviously has reduced to 700. So there's been a massive decline in population over that time. So that's due to obviously a number of factors: aging population, industries that are dying like fishing, etc., rice production. The island was a huge food source for the Japanese nation, rice and dairy, and that obviously has all just disappeared over time, and that's a bit unfortunate. So, but obviously the claim to fame, which obviously you've all heard about, is the industrial waste site, which was a very big black mark on the island. It had nothing to do with the island residents as such. It was a government decision that they closed their eyes to. They obviously gave corporations permission to dump. The locals were aware of it. It was creating health issues. And then I think, obviously this was way before my time. This is 20, 30 years ago. My father-in-law was heavily involved in the process of rallying the locals to start the process to fight against what was happening. They gained a lot of...
It'll be quite interesting to go just to slow down a bit and tell us a bit about what was happening, because our understanding is that Teshima Island got itself a nickname of being the garbage island. So if that's true. Tell us more about that.
So there was a corporation who were given permission. They obviously had permission from government at a higher level to come and use the island as a dumping site. It was everything you can imagine: tires, bodies, car bodies, everything. Some chemical waste as well. So I guess it was fortunate that it was at the tip of the island. So it didn't embody itself into the main centres as such, the townships as such. So, but obviously the locals were aware of it. And as I said, there were locals, there was fires being burnt, etc. as well. So there was locals getting sick because of obviously the smoke, the smell, whatever other toxins were being released from the site. And as I said, the locals just then said enough's enough and rallied together. They did gain some very high profile lawyers from other cities to support them, and they all worked pro bono.
Right.
And they took on the government and they won the case. So, and the corporation that was dumping was prosecuted, and I believe there was some serious jail time for some of the executives.
Right.
So, yeah, absolutely. And then after the case was won, they began, the local government had, well, I think it was the local government, the state government had no choice, but they had to clean up the mess. The local, Teshima was offered the opportunity to create their own waste disposal plant, which is now located on Naoshima. Yeah, yeah. High intensity burning, obviously to destroy all waste, etc. So, but the locals had enough. They didn't want to take the risk of any other, I guess, consequences of waste disposal or any other thing. So they just wanted to see the end of it, full stop. So for 10 to 12 years, the waste was extracted from the island, truckload after truckload after truckload, went virtually to Naoshima or other ports to be distributed and destroyed. So I think the last truck left here 2 years ago, and the site now is obviously been heavily tested by government agencies over that period of time. They believe there is no leaching has occurred into the waterways from it. They had big steel pylons along the whole waterfront where the site was, which went heavily into the earth to contain any leaching. So, like I said, major testing, all's come up very positive. The site's now totally clean. It's just virtually a barren site, starting to grow back to its natural environment that it was probably 30, 40 years ago.
Wow. And at the moment, how do you, and what does that mean for current waste that is generated on the island? How is that managed?
It's a good question. Current waste on the island is all sent to Teshima. So obviously a normal garbage service. It has its, obviously coming from a big city like Australia and obviously New Zealand, we're used to having dumps that we can go and take product to and distribute. So one of the big issues I have with the little island as such is the locals, there's no service that enables, say, a car. You can't just go and take a car somewhere to be given away. You have to pay a lot of money to give your car if you finish it. No one wants to buy it from you. It'll only go for scrap. So the little island like this, you'll find little pockets of land with old cars sitting on it because the locals, don't want to pay for the disposal of anything. Washing machines, bikes, motorbikes, just go, oh my God. But that's an example of, I think Japan really needs to have a look at itself in relation to waste. There used to be a normal dump here, but it has now closed. So everything as such, garbage-wise, goes to Teshima.
Teshima on Teshima Island, is that the waste disposal plant?
Yeah. So some of that waste will go to Teshima, and others will go to the mainland as such. So, but we have a garbage service twice a week for burnables, and for non-burnables is once a fortnight. So any like metal cans, spray cans, metals, glass, that sorts of things. But they give you plastic bags. So you only have a plastic bag, virtually 800 by 400, you can fit the product in. So anything bigger than that, you have a problem.
Next week. Yeah.
So most of the people just have sheds and all that stuff sits in their sheds. So because it's too hard. It's a hard basket. So for example, we just inherited a property where we bought another house here recently. So on these little islands, they all had rice paddies. So we've inherited like 14 rice paddies, that one property we bought. So on that property, there was a car. So it's up to us now to get rid of that car. And so we're in the process of trying to find a recycler from the mainland who will come here and collect the scrap, collect the car and take it away. So most of them don't pay you a thing, hence why the locals have no interest of going through that process. So, yeah.
It's not so dissimilar, is it, Sandy, to our situation? We had a dump that filled up, and now we are really trying to recycle everything. So, yes, yeah. But we also have lots of old cars around our island.
We certainly do. So as Teshima was cleaning up its image as Garbage Island, something else was occurring out the side of that. So maybe you could talk about that.
Yeah. So obviously through that process, and obviously you've been to Teshima, you experienced it. Teshima was the first to kick off in the art islands and through the process of Benesse. So Benesse, I'll explain, is obviously a very big corporation involved in English education in Japan, puts an enormous amount of money back into these islands, and the original director now lives in New Zealand. I'm not sure whether you're aware of that.
We tried to get hold of him, but it doesn't matter because we've got you. You're our
I'm in the second choice. That's okay.
We could have got the billionaire, but we've got you.
That's good to hear. Yeah, lovely guy. Teshima was the first to hit off, and then Teshima Museum was established 10 years ago, and that was the kickoff of tourism to the island. So I always tell people, if it wasn't for Benesse, if it wasn't for the art, this place would be a dying. It would just die a slow death. As simple as that. There's nothing else. Would be nothing else to save the island. So.
Alan, what's so special about the museum to tie it into the broader art destination thing?
I'd never heard of it before I obviously came here. I don't have an art background, and I think when you go there, you experience something that's truly amazing. You've just got to go there to experience it. Whether it's rain, hail, or shine, the museum is open and it gives a different perspective each time. So, and you don't have to be an art lover to appreciate it. And I think, well, I know our island, it's a mixture of art and the beauty of the island, the natural aspect. Whereas Teshima is probably more art-based than what we are. Teshima is half Mitsubishi Corporation and half art island. So whereas we are virtually nature and art. So it sets us apart.
So is it the architecture of the building that gives it the special quality that you're referring to?
100%. So it's purely the design, purely amazing. It's a concrete structure, a huge concrete structure. The dimensions, you're probably talking 50 meters long, dome shape. And so to give you some idea, the base was poured originally as a concrete base, and then they brought all the dirt in to make the mound for the roof, and then they poured the roof over the existing dirt they put in there, and then the dirt had to be extracted to create the museum as such. So it was a very, very big process. There is other, obviously, things like there's water, little trickles of water which run along the floor of the museum and enhances people. So it's purely amazing little place. So.
And was it this benefactor that provided the money to commission it?
Benesse purely commissioned the museum.
Okay, this is the same people who are funding the transformation of Teshima Island next door.
Correct.
And given that was at that point Teshima would have been flourishing, a decade or so ago. So it's like expansion of the art idea into a neighbouring smaller island.
Mm-hmm.
How did that go down with the locals?
I think, obviously, I wasn't here at the time, but the locals, I think it's like anything, change is very slow, especially with the elderly. There's still some here who still disagree with it, no doubt about it. We had the same problems with where we are, building our location. But I think now that as I said, a slow process, they see the change, they see the benefit to the island. Not all of them agree with the influx of tourists every day and bicycles riding down their roads and etc. So, but I guess the beauty of the art exposure, most of the tourists stick to the main roads. They're not going into the main villages and disturbing the peace of the residents as such. So, except us where we are. So because our Airbnb sits in the middle, overlooking the township. So, but that's an example of progress and change.
Because Alan, you've got an incredible amount of tourists arriving, I think, and then most of them are day trippers. So it's a very big influx of visitors that suddenly the island had to deal with through this initiative.
It's a huge influx of tourists. Like for me, coming from the Gold Coast, which is tourist capital, Mecca of Australia, to a little island and just seeing boatload after boatload after boatload of tourists just coming in is just mind-blowing, especially when the triennial is on. The triennial is every 3 years. So next year will be the triennial. And it is honestly, it's mind-blowing the amount of people that come here. And as you say, 95% of them are day trippers. The people that are staying here is growing. That industry is growing. I'm sure you're going to touch on that later, but most people, and that's the shame of it, and this comes to an educational process, I guess, but most people just think of Teshima at this point in time as just the museum. Yes. So they're not aware of the other things and the nature aspects as such. So
when the proposition was put by the benefactor, was it predicted that you would have such an influx of tourists, or has it taken off much, much more, or has it just grown incrementally or exponentially? How, did people expect what's happened?
I don't think they expected to see the numbers that are occurring now. I guess if you look at Japan as a whole at the moment, I don't think Japan was probably expecting the pre-COVID boom that's happening either. I think currently it's 3 million hitting Japan at the moment, which is mind-blowing. And we're only getting a small percentage of that to hit here. So, but yes, to answer your question, I don't believe they probably believed it would get to this extent. But when it's busy, it's busy. But most of the time, it's quite manageable. And like triennial is the busiest period, and that's when it's chaos. So, and you got to remember also, I would say probably 80% of them are foreign tourists.
Right.
Probably even higher. So, which is it fact in itself.
We had heard, I don't know, maybe the Japan Tourist Board put out a press release on this, but maybe about 6 weeks ago, we had heard that there had been some pushback from Japanese in terms of the way foreign tourists were treating the country.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how that plays out at a local level.
I've never seen that here. And I think if it did, the locals would really flare up for sure. I think that's obviously coming from the big cities, Kyoto, which I've seen highlights, and it's just mind-blowing the amount of tourists flocking through there at this point in time. I wouldn't want to go there with that many people there either. It's chaos. So I don't think it'd be pleasant. I've had people come here from Kyoto and stay with us and just say it was just at times it just wasn't pleasant because there was just way too many people. So
Alan, when the art museum is built, suddenly increasingly there are day trippers. Tell us on the positive side, what was the impact economically, socially, in any way, and from a positive point of view?
Oh, I guess from a positive, I guess from our example, it put tourism on the spot on this island, simply as that. So there's little startup, you have bicycle hire, little stores, you have little cafes, you have little shops that make shaved ice. So it's creating a sub-economy as such within an island that didn't have anything at that point in time. So most people pre the museum would have left the island daily to go, like my father-in-law had to go to Teshima to work, or go to the mainland. So it was the prospect of jobs on the island was virtually nil. So it was either you're working for the Japan Agricultural Society, which is JA,
yes,
or you're working for a nori factory, seaweed factory. That was probably the only two employment opportunities on the island at the time. So, but since then, also, there is a couple of agricultural things starting to happen. We have a huge mandarin farm. Olives are very big as well. So there's a huge olive plantation here. So it's really kicked the island into shape as such. You know, people have realised there is opportunity here now to create something. So
who's leading out on that? Who's leading out on a sort of a central vision for the island?
There is that many little different, and it's probably like your island, there's different little committees all over the place to control different things. And then there's the new generation, like Reiko and myself, who are the younger generation coming in. So a lot of these committees are the elderly. So they're and you would know, Japanese don't do things in a hurry. So that at times does create problems because they don't want to change quickly. So things do just take time, which probably shouldn't take as much time as they have taken in the past. And it is a very busy island. We don't wish Teshima to turn into a Naoshima and to be like a busy, overrun tourist mecca. Okay, it's I guess we're set up a little bit different, and the fact of the way the island is from a nature perspective, and only the little townships that we have, it probably won't happen anyway. But there is big corporations coming in, which is a positive and a negative, I guess, the locals, how they look at it. For example, Amuse. Now, Amuse looks after all the Japanese movie stars, entertainers, singers. It's a huge corporation. There was an old resort on the same side of the island where the industrial waste side was, so but around the corner on a beautiful, beautiful beach. And they actually just bought the property recently and paid the money to take away the resort. It was an eyesore. It was an overgrown jungle. It was old shipping containers made into a resort. So they paid for it to be taken away, cleaned up, and now they just made it just a beautiful place to see. They also have, I guess, like a semi-hotel they have there where the movie stars and all that come. But they are also buying lots of local houses and creating infrastructure in the township as well. So there is that investment coming in. They are going to start. There is rumor they've bought a property to build a little hotel. And they are creating a distillery and winery here as well. So yes, so there is positives and negatives to that if you're a local and how you look at that.
Can you imagine, Tim, if there was, oh no, we're going to do a hotel somewhere on the island, a small island, so it wouldn't go down well. What's the local resistance to that, or what's the local feeling about that?
It's probably half and half.
Right.
So the younger generation probably have no problem at all with that because they can see the positives in it, creating more opportunities within the island. Okay. The elderly, they probably have their opinions on it. But what I guess one point I need to raise is probably 70, maybe 80% of this island is still 70 and over.
Is that changing?
So,
is that changing at all?
very slowly.
Right.
So, from a demographic perspective, in 10 to 20 years, there may be a bit of an issue in population size still on this island.
That's happening all over Japan.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with the transformation to an art/nature island, what impact has that had at all on a population of a younger generation, yourself included, coming back or seeking a different lifestyle?
Yeah, no, there is younger families kicking in, and the local government does offer incentives for locals to move here. I guess I can touch on that. So, if you buy a local house, then they will give you a grant, probably up to 20,000 NZ or Aussie dollars wise to renovate. Kitchens, bathrooms, etc. $1,000 a person. Have babies, they'll give you money. So there's lots of incentive from these rural areas for you to move there.
Is it from the Japanese government? Is it a central? Is it a Japanese?
It's a Tonosho. It's a Kagawa state region. Local area. So each area has different incentives for people to move to. Some people give them houses, so we can virtually get houses for nothing anyway here. So
Tim, it would be really helpful for us to know about what you're involved in. Our understanding is you're involved yourself and Reko, your wife, involved in something where you're mentoring or helping older people do something in terms of farm holidays or Airbnb or bed and breakfast.
Yeah. So obviously, when we bought this property, we created the Airbnb Tokoto, which is our brand, which we have here. So we have a number of elderly people who were looking at doing something similar, not the high end that we do. So the low end, just little accommodation, live with them, breakfast, etc., fishing tours, that sort of thing. So Reiko's background obviously is Japanese tourism, has a lot of experience, worked in inbound as well. So we created a little subcommittee which involves four other little accommodation places on the island, and they're all elderly people. So as part of that process is Reiko controls the committee, helps them with their bookings, help any infrastructure they need, any information they need. For example, one of them had French customers 3 days ago, so we went and met the customers, checked them in because of the language barrier problem, explained everything for them. So we don't charge anything for that. So it's just purely to help them, and from a customer service perspective, and get them over the line. So that's within those local people. We brought back a traditional fishing tour as well. So they're all involved in that. So it's a traditional net fishing where we leave the beach, go out in a boat, just do this around, come back in, then hand pull the nets back in. And all those elderly people are all involved in that. And they all get paid to come and help. And we do a traditional lunch with the fish we catch and the rice, do that all on the beach and cook it. It's really, really great.
So that's like a Japanese homestay network.
Yeah, Japanese homestay. Yeah. So some of them are homestay, some of them are like a little B&B as such. So you can have your choices. So yeah.
Tim, that's similar to that idea you had, or the island you went to in Korea all those years ago that you were talking about.
Yeah, Alan, I went to Jeju, I don't know, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the highlight for me was hiring a bike and then staying with the local families as I biked around, because it gave me a window into the real island. And is that part of what you're doing? And, you know, how do so you got mass tourism, people coming in and out on a daily basis, but you're providing something different, a lot more authentic, perhaps.
And I always welcome people to Teshima and virtually say, welcome to Teshima. You've just been time warped back in time 20 years. Yeah. So, and this is the real Japan. This isn't the fake or anything else. This is, as you see it, you know, the elderly are still here working their vegetable gardens every day. Obviously, we have our own vegetable garden. You're living off land as such. So we do have all the modern, you know, we get groceries delivered just like anything else, modern city perspective. But you are rural, and the elderly still love to go out there, grow their vegetables, you know, have their rice, and that's part of the beauty of this island. You know what I mean? You're just that far away from the mainland, hands distance, to give you that aspect of escapism, I guess. And the tourists that do come here, and yes, Tim, we have the same thing with the bicycle situation. So to get around this island from the tourist perspective, the main form is electric bicycle. And I send them on a tour to 10, 12 different points on this island that no one virtually goes to. The day trippers that come here will never experience it. And they just come back and go, wow, they're blown away of the beauty of the place. And it gives them a chance to explore. And I guess, like, I'll give you an example. So Han-chan is one of the people who does the live-in Japanese situation. So she's 80, just had her 88th day, has her own vegetable garden. She does a live-in breakfast every morning, so that they go to her vegetable garden, pick the vegetables, cook breakfast together. Obviously, there's the language issue. They get around that, and the customers just love it. You know, so,
what kind of tourists are you getting for that experience?
Although, for example, those French customers I spoke about the other day, they were a couple with a teenage son.
Yeah.
So it's across. It's, you know, most of them are foreigners.
Are they wealthy, or they're not sort of not wealthy hotel types and backpackers? But so
not wealthy. I would say middle of the run. You know, and some of them do have. They're not poor. Some of them just want to experience that lifestyle.
This is an idea that Tim and I were kicking around when we were talking about, is it Jeju Island in Korea? Just with a network of homestays, what kind of quality control, is there a quality control body or, you know, stamp of approval or anything like that? So that's good. So it's a pretty loose network of people who know people.
Yeah, it's a very loose, even like from a building perspective here, and like, honestly, there's nothing how you have to submit. It's just go for it. You know, like most people that come here, they're blown away. like Australia and New Zealand, you put your plans in the council, it takes 6 months to come out.
Yeah.
No such thing. It's it's a different life form, honestly.
Yeah.
One thing that sort of a bit of a pet idea for me is the value of slowing down, and I wondered whether you've got this mass quick tourism happening, but what you're offering is a way to slow the tourists down and perhaps spend a bit more time, learn a bit more, perhaps spend a bit more money while they're there. Is that kind of like potentially a second stage? You know, you build your tourism market, and then you want to keep them for longer. You want to enriched them more than what the initial pull was.
Yes, Tim, you nailed it on the head, actually. When we first opened, we were virtually one night stay. That's the way people looked at us. But now more and more 3, 2, 3, 4 night stays. So, and it's virtually to get them here to experience the slowdown effect, as you say, and just relax. You come on a holiday to relax, not be on the go. You know, Kyoto one day, Tokyo the next, Osaka. You know, I just had a family from Belgium stay 2 nights in our King Villa, and they just left this morning, and they said this is the most beautiful place I've ever seen in my life, and that was their teenage sons saying that, which to me was pretty amazing for a teenage kids. They had been all over the world, and they went swimming at one of the beaches, I said to them, you can go to Naoshima, you can go to Inajima for day visits, and the father just said, listen, we picked this place because we just want to come here and experience and relax and enjoy the peace and quiet, and they did. They slept in till 10 o'clock virtually every day and went to dinner at night, and he just shook my hand this morning and said, thanks, unbelievable. So, and that's what we want to create on this island. Not a go.
See, there's a really interesting tourism vision coming out of that.
Yeah.
I think so, Sandy. And I mean, it's hallelujah to that in a way, isn't it? Because it sounds like you're a little bit like our island. We're a little bit remoter, smaller, more nature orientated. And that's the gift of these islands, isn't it? Is that we're more in touch with limits in a way, you know, because we have to live close to the land. We have to grow our own vegetables. We have to be responsible for our waste. And there's something authentic and genuine and simplistic about that that's been lost in the rush of other places. And then when people encounter it, they go, gosh, this is actually what I'm looking for, even if they didn't know what it was they were looking for.
Yeah. I think, Tim, you know, you come here for a reason. You know, I'm never going to make as much same amount of money what I was making in Australia. That
in terms of bringing guests into your home, that homestay is really interesting in terms of slowing down, going out, picking the vegetables, which we do. Most people have done anyway. But there's something really interesting in that. And I guess I have a question in terms of, putting a tourism hat on, what kind of, there's the art museum, right? And I guess this homestay movement is spinning off that. What are the other accidental, surprising, or possibly even deliberate business ideas, opportunities have spun off the art, the overall transformation?
I think the obvious one is something obviously like we do, the B&B market now. So Muji, which is a huge Japanese company in Japan, they have actually just taken over, well, upgraded an accommodation that Benesse built many, many years ago and shut down. So the B&B market is growing here. So more and more people are doing it. I have an American friend who lives in Karato, which is the next township on the other side of the island. He is toying with the idea. He actually, unfortunately, has to go back to the US because his wife got transferred there, of turning his little design house he built into a high-end B&B as well. So, and there is the market for it. And I always learned from business is competition is good. You know, so don't fear competition. It only creates better business. So the more obviously suppliers we have here, the more people, the word of mouth that spreads, the more people want to come here too. So
one question I have, just, you know, you've got 70%. Did you say 70% of your population have 70? There's an aging population, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, just away from tourism for a moment, from a schooling perspective, is there one primary school on the island? What happens at secondary school? Tell us about that.
Okay, yeah. So we have a kindergarten, and then we have from grade 1 to grade 9, which is junior high. Okay. Currently, there's 30 children at that school. So my son's in grade 1. So as soon as those kids finish grade 9, they go into their senior levels of high school. We did have a senior high school here, but it obviously shut down many, many years ago because we just couldn't sustain the numbers. So those children now have to go to Takamatsu, Okayama, or Teshima on a daily basis.
Oh, so they're going daily. Okay, so they can do that by ferry.
Yeah, they can do it by ferry. So we have a very good ferry service. We have 3 port service that come to the island, and that's also due to the art.
Yes.
If the art wasn't as busy as it was, that services wouldn't exist.
How long is the ferry ride from these adjacent islands?
Okay, so most of the ferry rides, Teshima, Uno, is only like a 35-minute to 40-minute speedboat. We have speedboat and ferry, so car carrier as well. So it's a very good service.
Yeah, so it's more Waiheke distance from Auckland than we are.
Yeah.
You've got a population I think are similar to ours. Is it 900 people on your island?
Oh, we're 700.
700.
700, so it's a few less.
Yeah.
And you've got a few villages. Have you is there 4 or 5 settlements?
Yeah, there's
something like that?
three different townships and villages as such. Yeah, so Eura, where we live, is probably the largest, and there's Karato and Ko. So
yeah, so that's similar to ours, except I think we're a lot bigger. We're over 10 times bigger, I think.
Okay.
I was just curious about your housing situation. So did you have a lot of housing stock that is being repurposed? So you had a much higher population that shrunk, but as tourism has revitalized your economy and brought people back, you've actually got housing that you can restore. Is that correct?
That's correct. So we would probably have, I'd say 60% of the houses that are still of some sort of value on this island are empty. And that's a result of obviously the large population that once lived here. But the biggest problem, Tim, is that trying to find the original owners of the properties. It's not probably like NZ or Australia where there's council records that can be easily traced. But yeah, there's an excess of properties here.
Hey, for the look, we've got a couple of minutes.
Sure.
Alan, what else haven't we asked that you think would be important to share about your island? Anything else that you think parting shot?
I just think it gives opportunity for people who are willing to take a shot in life. And I say, I'm not probably that person because, listen, I already run businesses before, but for any young couple who want to do something different, take a chance in life, you can't go wrong. Like NZ, Australia, you can't buy a house for $100 million. Like, come here, set up a business. You can create a very, very, very good business here, and opportunity. Like, we're currently looking for a manager to come and run our B&Bs, and having big difficulty trying to find someone.
This is a good advertisement.
So,
the good advertisement, Alan.
Anyone out there? Are we looking? So
it comes with a free house, right?
Oh, yes, and they get a free house, free car, and you want to keep going. So,
wow, trust me, that position will be full. Well, we're going to send you a local delicacy. As luck with my friend Mitsumi is coming to stay next week, and I'm going to get when she goes back to Japan in September. She's going to bring a gift because we're going to send you, this is our sponsor for our show, Island Gin, which is distilled off-grid on the island. We're assuming you're a gin drinker. If not, it's time to start. We like to say it's probably the most sustainable gin in the world. It's won loads of international awards. So that and a T-shirt at some point will be arriving when I get Masumi to bring it back to Japan to post to you. So
Appreciate that.
yeah, no, let us know how you find it. I'm pretty sure you'll love it.
Yeah.
We're out of time. So thank you so much, Alan. I've found that really interesting, and it's because it's dovetailing into a conversation that Tim and I had started having, but not about a Japanese island. Tim, any parting shots from you?
No, but I found it fascinating. So thank you very much, Alan. There's both similarities and differences. And yeah, I mean, there's a big, yeah, I mean, some of the stories we're hearing are based around a big move, big, bold move. You know, someone goes and puts an amazing museum on your island and everything changes. Whether that's possible for us, I can't see how, but it's a very interesting constant that we're picking up in some of the interviews we're doing. But the consequences of that and then the spin-offs from that and some of the downsides of it, I think are really interesting for us here. So yeah, thank you very much.
I think you need to contact Mr. Benessa. You never know. He might come and
Hey, we're in contact. We've been hassling. You never know. You never know.
You never know, honestly.
But I'm pretty inspired to come to Teshima Island.
You're definitely welcome.
Thank you so much for your time. You've given us great food for thought, and hopefully you'll at Teshima at some point.
Yeah, no, well, you're welcome, and I wish you all the best with your island, and hopefully something kicks off there too.
Thanks so much. See you later.
Thanks,
bye.
Okay, bye, guys.
See you.
Bye.
So what do you reckon, Tim?
What a fascinating story, Sandy. Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? I mean, I started off reading the brief and having a picture of it, but it kind of changed as he was telling the story. I don't think big and bold is the way for this island, and we probably can't do it in that sense. It sounded more like a Waiheke dynamic of rushes of ferries coming in and people piling in and off. But I liked what he was saying about the homestays, like the people rushing around. Actually, that's not what they want. They want something more genuine. And and it's the small things, the fresh vegetables, the getting to know the locals. I love the way that they were giving income and meaning, and I think it's the meaning. It's giving a place for the elderly in the game. I thought that was wonderful, didn't you?
But I love that idea of engaging an elderly audience, but also residents, but also in a way that wasn't dramatic. It was just come and stay. Come and help me pick my vegetables. And I love what you said, Tim, about that slow tourism. That homestay vibe.
Yeah. I've always disliked tourism. I haven't liked being a tourist. Even when I was a traveller, I had to slow down. I had to stay in places for a long time. I look at people rushing around, particularly when they go to Japan, because they seem to want to pack in so much and go on the bullet trains and go zoop, 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 and they run around. And I don't know, but for me, that type of experience of the place was never fulfilling. And that's, I think, our gift, and we should be strong in it. We have something special here because we've slowed down, because we have to work with our neighbours. We live with our neighbours. We're close to the sea and the seasons, and we notice the moon and there's so many things that we are connected with, which people come and they look at and they go, gosh, I've forgotten all that. That's the gift of these small islands.
It's part of that, I think.
Yeah. And I liked, you drew it out, the connections between schools new people coming back, younger people, integration of older people, gardening, waste, they all feed off each other. And if you can get that right and get it growing, it's a ripple effect. It unleashes a whole lot of positive things that can be transformational without necessarily having the big thing.
Completely. And I don't know, I thought that was really interesting. So a completely different take on another island. And it was interesting, we didn't go too much into the garbage cleanup, but it just proves anything can be done, right? Anything can be done, because they were the garbage dump island of Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Sandy. I look forward to
we'll
where we're going next.
I don't remember where we're going next, but I'm hold on to your seats. I'm loving it. Hey, lots of love. Talk to you soon. And awesome.
Okay. Good on you, Sandy. See ya.
Bye. Small Island Big Ideas wish to thank our sponsor, Island Gin, probably the world's most sustainable gin company, distilled with Manuka bush honey and bottled in recycled glass, right here off-grid on Aotea Great Barrier Island.
And thanks to our partner in crime, Bree Biederman, researcher Emma Ricketts, Aotea FM, Luke Nola and friends, and the local board of Aotea Great Barrier Island's Auckland Council, and the Festival of Adult Learning.
Is there anybody else we need to thank?
Oh, probably half the island, Sandy, but...
and Georgie, let's give a shout out
my
to
daughter Georgie. The crew at Aotea FM, Linda Rowe and Renee Freeland.
Oh, and everybody from the island who's given us the great ideas too.
Yeah, that's right. They keep coming, don't they?
Absolutely.